Hello everyone, my name is Shadab Siddiqui. I am working as an assistant professor in the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Madan Mohan Malviya, University of Technology, Gorakhpur, Uttar Pradesh. In this lecture, we are going to study the klystron amplifier. Now let us start the klystron amplifier. So, klystron amplifier is widely used as microwave amplifier and it is operated on the principle of velocity and current modulation. We will see velocity modulation mathematically in detail, how velocity modulation takes place. So in this lecture, what we are going to study is the construction of two-cavity klystron amplifier and the working principle and the characteristics of two-cavity klystron amplifier. So then we will see the mathematics of velocity modulation, how velocity modulation takes place, and then we will see the bunching process. Okay. So now next we will see some applications of klystron amplifier. Okay. So all these we will see in detail. So first I start with the construction and working principle of two-cavity klystron amplifier. Now, to understand this construction of two-cavity klystron, we will first see what are the elements present in the two-cavity klystron amplifier. So first we have cathode, then we have focusing anode, and we have the two cavity, which is first called buncher cavity, also called as the input cavity, and then we have a catcher cavity, also called as output cavity, and the RF input which is applied to this buncher cavity. This is also called as a gap voltage. Then we have a drift space. So in this drift space, the bunching process takes place. So bunching of electron beam takes place here. The length of the drift space is L. Okay. Then we have catcher cavity. Now all the bunched electron which is coming to here. So this catcher cavity will catch the energy or all the kinetic energy of this bunched electron and is coming in the form of RF output. And the collector we have. So it collects all the electron. Okay, and then this process continues. Voltage which is applied as V naught. Okay, so this V naught is a DC voltage and which is very high DC voltage. So this is DC voltage. So this is very high DC voltage. And the RF input which is applied here, this RF input is a weak signal which is called Vs is equal to V1 sine omega t. So this amplitude of this weak signal V1 is very less than the DC voltage which is applied here. This is also called a weak signal. So to begin with the working principle of this two-cavity klystron amplifier, so first we have a cathode. So now we have applied DC voltage. Due to this applied high DC voltage, the cathode will emit the electron with a uniform velocity, and this velocity is V naught. Okay. Then we have a anode which is used for focusing purpose, so that electron do not scatter. This electron with a uniform velocity reaches the cavity gap. So this is the buncher cavity gap, and at this gap the velocity modulation takes place. So we can see we have the applied voltage. This is a weak signal RF input which is called Vs is equal to V1 sin omega t. So I have drawn this. So some of the electron may come in the negative half cycle, some of the electron may come at this point, some of the electron may come at the positive half cycle. So in this cavity gap, the electron which is coming in the negative half cycle, okay, or electron which is passed through this negative half cycle is decelerated, means their velocity will decrease. Now the electron which is coming at this zero signal voltage or zero gap voltage will not accelerate or not decelerate it. It will go in a uniform velocity whatever is there. Now the electron which is coming in the positive half cycle will accelerate it because it will gain some energy from this weak signal. So it will be accelerated. So we can see the electron which were coming at some time this one, at some time this one, and sometime this one. So you can see this electron is reaches early, this electron is reaches later, and this electron is sometime t0. So you can see here the electron which is coming early is decelerated, their velocity is decreases, and the electron which is coming later is accelerated, which is faster. So in the drift space, all these electron in a one cycle will make a bunch, and this bunching process occur in the drift space. So this bunched electron is traveled to the catcher cavity, and it reaches the catcher cavity. So catcher cavity catches the energy from the bunched electron. Thus the kinetic energy is transferred from the electrons to the field of this cavity, and the beam passed through the catcher cavity, and it is terminated at the collector, and collector will collect all the electron, and this process continued. Now the density of electrons in the catcher cavity gap varies cyclically with time. So the electron beam contains an AC signal or AC component, and it is said to be current modulated. So we have I_T1, and this is modulated velocity V of T1. Okay, we will use this timeline while explaining the velocity modulation and the bunching process. So this is all about the working principle and construction of the klystron amplifier. Now we will see the characteristics of two cavity klystron amplifier. Then we will see the velocity modulation mathematically and the process of velocity modulation. So these are the characteristics of two cavity klystron amplifier. The efficiency will about 40%. The average power, continuous wave power is up to 500 kilowatt, and the pulse power is about 30 megawatt at 10 gigahertz, and the power gain is about 30 dB. So 30 dB power gain will be there. So moving to the quantitative analysis, which can be done under the following assumption. So the first assumption says the electron beam is assumed to have uniform density. So the density will be uniform throughout the cross section of the beam. Okay. So the second is the space charge effect should be negligible. Now the third one says a V1, the signal should be less than the DC voltage V0. So that means magnitude of microwave signal input is assumed to be much smaller than DC accelerating voltage. So whatever voltage applied, DC voltage, that should be much greater than V1. Now before moving to the velocity modulation process, I would like to add 2-3 things that, such as characteristic impedance, input impedance, and the resonant frequency. Although resonant frequency is very difficult to calculate of the coaxial cavity, but using some approximation like transmission line theory, it can be found out. So now if we see the reentrant cavity, so the reentrant cavity which we have taken in the figure like this, two cavity which was taken as, this is not uniform, we just take this, take the partition of, so let's take this length is called L, and this length is also L, and this gap is called 2A, and this distance is called 2E, and the distance of this gap which is called D. So this is nothing but, this coaxial cavity is nothing but the coaxial line which is connected with the two capacitor. I have taken the coaxial line here, and one more coaxial line which is connected together with the capacitor. So there will be input impedance present here, and this side also there will be an input impedance. This is an example. This is nothing but a coaxial cable. This is nothing but coaxial cable or transmission line, and this is the cross section of coaxial cavity. Okay. So now we know the characteristic equation of coaxial line, which should be equal to 1 upon 2 pi square root of mu by epsilon ln b by a. Now the input impedance of each shorted coaxial line will be J Z naught tan beta L. So this can be written as J into 1 upon 2 pi square root of mu by epsilon ln b by a. So by solving L and C, we can find the FR also. FR also can be found out using L and C. Now next we have velocity modulation process. So to understand the velocity modulation process, first we need to understand, so what should be the velocity V0 in terms of the DC voltage. Okay. So at the cathode we have applied DC voltage V0. So in that we can see static energy should be equal to kinetic energy. Okay. So the kinetic energy which gains the electron was 2mv0 square, and the static energy was electronic charge into v0. So by using this we can find this velocity v0 is equal to square root of 2 e by m into v0. Okay, which can be 0.593 into 10 to the power 6 into square root of v0 meter per second. Okay, so this is the initial velocity or uniform velocity which is applied. Now the transit time which is taken by the carrier, maybe the time, transit time or time taken by the carrier to travel the gap here, time taken by the carrier to travel the gap d. So this tau should be equal to, in that figure you have seen in the previous slide, I have taken, see here, we have taken t0 time, and this gap is called, this gap distance is called d. So this can be written as transit time is equal to t1 minus t0. Okay, and this can be written as d upon velocity v0. Suppose let us assume in the cavity the electron which is traveling with the velocity v0. After the exit of this cavity gap, it may be accelerated or decelerated, depends on this. So at that time we will consider the velocity will be v1 or v1 of t, we will consider, and we are trying to find this b1 of t. In this b1 of t we can see either velocity is accelerated or decelerated. By using the equation of this we can find. So initially we have tau is equal to d by v0 in the gap. So therefore tau should be equal to t1 minus t0, which is equal to d upon v0. Therefore theta g is equal to transit angle, which can be written as omega tau is equal to omega t1 minus t0 is equal to omega d by v0. Otherwise here we can find out omega t1 should be equal to omega t1 should be equal to omega t0 plus omega d by v0. Okay. Now we will try to find the average microwave voltage of the buncher gap. So this can be found out using averaging of this signal voltage Vs in the time duration, or time duration. So this can be starting from t0 time to t1, and we have Vs into d omega, Vs into dt. So Vs is nothing but v1 sine omega t into dt. So after solving this we can find, so this can be v1 upon tau, and we can write cos omega t or minus cos omega t, t0 to t1, which is divided by omega. So this can be written as v1 upon omega tau and cos omega t0 minus cos omega t1, by considering this minus sign. Already we have seen the t1, which is written as omega t1, is written as omega t0 plus omega d by v0. So v1 divided by omega tau, this can be written as cos omega t0 plus omega d by v0. We will substitute the tau value also. Tau is nothing but d by v0. Our ultimate goal is to find out in terms of theta g. So let us assume this omega t0 and omega t0 plus d by v0. Just try to take the one cosine term, or this minus sign term you just remove. So either you can try the for trigonometric identity cos A minus cos B formula, or either you just assume let A is equal to omega t0 plus omega d by 2 v0. Just try to take this assumption, and B is equal to omega d by 2 v0. Okay. So this can also be written as omega t0 plus theta g by 2, and this can also be written as omega, this theta g by, you can see here, if you take from this you can take A minus B. So A minus B will be omega t0, and A plus B will be, what is this value, omega t0 plus omega d by v0. So just apply here and you will get this v1 divided by omega tau, just take tau here, and this can be written as cos A minus B minus cos A plus B. And we know this trigonometric identities. So this trigonometric identity is nothing but 2 sin A sin B. Okay, this is the trigonometric identity, and this is nothing but 2 sin A sin B. Okay, so we will write here in the next slide. So this Vs should be equal to V1 upon omega into tau, and we have sin A into sin B into 2 times. Okay, where A was omega t naught plus theta g by 2 and B was theta g by 2. So therefore this can be rewritten as Vs is equal to V1 by omega tau 2 sin A is nothing but omega t naught plus theta g by 2 and sin B is nothing but theta g by 2. Bracket close. So this can be written as B1 divided by omega tau, okay, by 2 into sin omega t naught plus theta g by 2 into sin, or you just substitute theta g. We know theta g is nothing but omega d by v naught. You substitute, no problem, omega d by 2 v naught. Okay, so we will get here v1 divided by, this is also omega d by 2 v naught. Okay, because we will substitute tau is equal to d by v naught, and we have sin omega tau by 2 v naught and into sin omega t naught plus omega d by 2 v naught. Okay, no problem. So now we can see here this is nothing but a sampling. This is nothing but a sampling. Sin theta by theta is nothing but a sampling. So this can be written as b1 into sin, maybe in a shorter term you can add theta g by 2 divided by theta g by 2 into sin omega t naught plus theta g by 2. So this term you just assume as a beta I. Okay, so this is also called a beam coupling coefficient. So this is called b1 into beta I into sin omega t naught plus theta g by 2. So this is our assumption. This is our average RF signal. This is equation number 1 you just take. So this is nothing but where beta I should be equal to sin theta g by 2 divided by theta g by 2, and this is called beam coupling coefficient. Okay, in this we can see beta I is equal to sin theta g by 2 divided by theta g by 2, which is beam coupling coefficient. So this graph is drawn, which is called beam coupling coefficient versus transit angle. So we can see in the graph, as theta g increases, beta I decreases. As a result, if we increase the theta g, beta I decreases. So we can see if beta I decreases, the velocity modulation decrease. We will see velocity v of t1 is directly proportional to this beta I, or it is related to beta I. Okay, so already we have v naught, which is equal to square root of 2e by m into v naught. Okay, now to have v1 of, or v of t1, or maybe v1 velocity, so we need to have this 2e by m. Okay, and instead of v naught we will have v naught plus vs, which is applied at the gap. Means this v naught was already there, and this v naught is applied at the gap. Okay, so therefore if we substitute this vs, previously we have vs is equal to this value, equation number 1. We will try to substitute this equation number 1 in that equation. So we will write from equation 1. So this can be written as the square root of 2 E by m into V naught plus beta I V1 sine omega T naught plus theta G by 2. This is into square root. So now we will try to take the V naught outside so that we will write in terms of this velocity. So we will take V naught common. So this can be written 2 Em into V naught, which can be written as 1 plus beta I V1 divided by V naught sine omega T naught plus theta G by 2. This term is nothing but depth of modulation. Depth of modulation. Okay. So now we have V of T1, which can be written as the square root of this term will be nothing but V naught. Already we have equation number 2, you just take. So this term is nothing but V naught into 1 plus this depth of modulation. So this factor you just write depth of modulation 2 beta I V1 by V naught into sine omega T naught plus theta G by 2. This term can be either 1 plus something or 1 minus something. It depends either whether your velocity is accelerated or decelerated. If this is plus, that means this velocity is accelerated. If this is minus, that means your velocity is decelerated. Okay. So that depends on the signal, whatever you are applying. Already I have, while discussing already I have told you that after the gap, means it depends on, this is suppose gap of the reentrant cavity, and the electron which is coming uniform velocity electron V naught which is coming to this gap, and in this gap we have Vs. Okay, so in the positive half cycle what will happen, in the negative half cycle what will happen, you can see it in this equation. So we have positive half cycle, we have negative half cycle, we have 0. So at 0 Vs means V1 amplitude will be 0. So this term will be directly 0. So we will get all these will be 0. So that means this will be V of T1 is nothing but V naught into 1 plus 0 means V naught. Okay, square root of V naught. So no, I think this is wrong. So this is nothing but square root of. So, okay. So this depends on this this value. Okay. In the positive half cycle, V1 will be positive, and beta is, of course, beta is always positive. So that means this V of T1 should be V naught into 1 plus something, means this will be accelerated. Now in the negative half cycle you can see V1 value is minus, meaning Vs amplitude is minus. So this V1 should be negative value, the amplitude should be negative. So this will be 1 minus something, this means electron will be decelerated. So that's how electron acceleration and deceleration takes place after the cavity gap. Okay, so this is V of T1. Okay, and this is T naught time, this is T1 time. That's how velocity modulation takes place. Okay, so this B of T can be rewritten by removing this square root term and using the binomial expansion. We can write V of T1 is equal to V naught into 1 plus beta I V1 divided by V naught, and that should be 2 because the square root, if we remove a square root, it will come 1 plus x to the power half. So if x is much less than 1, so we can write 1 plus x by 2. And here in this equation we can see beta I V1 divided by V naught, that is much less than 1 because beta I V1 is much less than V naught value. Okay, so this can be rewritten as this one, and into sine omega T naught plus theta G by 2, or it can also be written as in terms of t1. If we take this integration vs in terms of 1 by tau and t1 to t0, so it will be in the form of v of t1 is equal to v0 into 1 plus beta I v1 divided by 2 v0 into sine omega t1 minus theta g by 2. So both are valid and both are the equation for velocity at time t1, that is modulated velocity. So now we will proceed with the bunching process, how bunching process takes place. So as we have already discussed, the bunching process occurs when travel the electron from the buncher cavity and move to the drift space. The bunching process occurs in this region, this drift space, and this drift space is a field free region. So let us assume the bunching process occurs at this point and this time is some TD value. Okay, so this TD here represented the bunching occur at this point. So at this time bunching occurs, this is called bunching center. So the electron leaves the positive half cycle will be accelerated and electron leaves in the negative half cycle will be decelerated. So this electron will be accelerated means this will be faster electron and this is the slower electrons. Already here mentioned this is the slowest one and this is a slower electron which is having some velocity, okay, slower velocity, and this is the faster electron which is having faster velocity or maybe accelerated velocity, and this is going under no velocity changes. So all these slower, faster and same speed electron, same velocity electron will travel the same distance which is called delta L. This is the bunching grid to the distance. So this distance is nothing but delta L. So all these electrons will travel this distance delta L. So now we will try to find this delta L value and we will try to relate for all these slower, faster and unchanged velocity electron, and we'll try to find the delta L value for all by taking the consideration of this timeline. Now here we can see the total time period for this one cycle will be somewhere we have t and we know t is equal to 2 pi by omega. So now this distance is nothing but a quarter of t, that is t by 4. So if we have t is equal to 2 pi by omega, that is t by 4 will be pi by 2 omega. Similarly this is also, because this is peak value. Okay, so what should be the delta L for the unchanged velocity electron? So we can see the velocity of this particular electron will be v0 because the velocity is unchanged. Now what should be time? Because we know distance is equal to velocity into time. So what should be the time which is taken by this electron to travel this delta L distance or bunching center? So this will be nothing but TD minus TB, because TD from 0 to this and TB is nothing but this. So this TD minus TB will be this time taken by the carrier to travel this bunching center. So this will be TD minus TB. Take this as equation number 1. This is for unchanged velocity electron. Now for faster electron you write here unchanged, and if we take faster moving electron, faster velocity or moving electron, so this delta L for this will be the velocity which is moving will be maximum velocity because it is faster. And what should be the time taken by this? So faster will move from this TC point, so that will be TD minus TC. The time taken by this carrier will be TD minus TC. Now if we rearrange this equation or this time in the form of TB, so we can write this TD minus TC can be written as TD minus TB minus pi by omega, 2 omega. So this can be written as V max into TD minus TB minus pi by 2 omega. Similarly, if we write for slow moving electron, so for this delta L will be V mean, because the minimum velocity, for slow electron the velocity will be minimum. So minimum velocity into TD minus TA, because this is slower is moving from this point. So this will be TA. This can also be rearranged and can be written as in the form of TB. So this will be V mean into TD minus
Ta plus pi by 2 omega, because Td minus Tb will be this distance and we have to add this pi by omega. So this is equation number 2, just take this is equation number 3. Now we will try to substitute maximum velocity and minimum velocity into these equation number 2 and equation number 3. So how maximum velocity can be found out? Either from this equation or this equation, and the maximum will be depend on this sign value. For peak value the sign will be 1, and for mean value this will be minus 1. So this is ranging from minus 1 to plus 1, and the maximum velocity Vmax will be V0 into 1 plus beta I V1 divided by V0, and the minimum velocity will be V0 into 1 minus beta I into V1 divided by V0. So I will try to substitute this Vmax and Vmean to the above equation, that is equation number 2 and equation number 3. So what is our Vmax? V0 into 1 plus beta I V1 divided by V0, and that will be into Td minus Tb minus pi by 2 omega. So our delta L would be V0 into 1 minus beta I V1 divided by V0 into Td minus Tb, and what was that? This was the minimum velocity. This is nothing but V mean. So in that V mean we have already seen we have plus pi by 2 omega. So this would be V0 into Td minus Tb. Just take V0 into 1 into Td minus Tb, plus we have V0 into 1 into pi by 2 omega. So we'll have V0 into pi by 2 omega. Again we have V0 into beta I V1 divided by V0. So minus, this minus sign will be there, V0 into beta I V1 divided by V0 into Td minus Tb into this value. Again we have minus sign, V0 into beta I V1 divided by V0 into pi by 2 omega. So this is the equation of delta L, okay, from equation number, this is for V mean, so the equation number 3. So this is from equation number 3. Now from equation number 2, our delta L would be the maximum value, V0 into 1 plus beta I V1 divided by V0 into Td minus Tb minus pi by 2 omega. So this can be rearranged, this can be rewritten as V0 into Td minus Tb, similar multiplication you do, plus, so this will be V0 into 1 into minus pi by 2 omega. So this will be minus V0 into pi by 2 omega. Again you just take V0 into beta I V1 divided by V0 into Td minus Tb. So plus V0 into beta I V1 divided by V0 into Td minus Tb. The next one, minus V0 into beta I V1 divided by V0 into pi by 2 omega. So you can see these two equations, this delta L equation and this delta L equation. Try to correlate these two equations. You will see this V0 Td minus Tb, here also V0 Td minus Tb, but this term multiplied with a minus sign. So these two equations, these two terms are multiplied with a minus sign, but this is for minimum velocity, means for slower moving electron, and this is for faster moving electron. But we know all these electron, whether it can be slow moving electron or fast moving electron or the same speed which is moving, all will travel the distance delta L, that is from the bunching grid, delta L distance they will travel. So that means all these delta L should be same. So we have seen unchanged velocity moving electron. So this is delta L is nothing but V0 into Td minus Tb. So here this is nothing but delta L for unchanged velocity moving electron. So that means this term should be equated with a 0, and this term is also equated with a 0. So if you equate this term with a 0, this is nothing but this is also 0, because this is multiplied with a minus sign. So from the analysis we got delta L will be same for all the electron which is moving from the bunching grid. That is, we can equate equation number 1, 4 and 5. So from this we'll get this term should be equated with a 0. So I'll write this term and equate with a 0. So this is nothing but V0 into pi by 2 omega minus V naught into beta I V1 divided by V naught into TD minus TB minus V naught into beta I V1 divided by V naught into pi by 2 omega, which is equal to 0. So this term should be equated with the 0 because mutual repulsion of the space charge is neglected. Okay, so from this we can write V naught into pi by 2 omega minus V naught into beta I V1 divided by V naught into TD minus TB should be equal to 0. So from this we can find TD minus TB is equal to, just V naught will be outside and that will be cancelled. So this can be written as pi V naught divided by omega beta I into V1. Okay, so we have TD minus TB. We can find this by using this term. This transit may be tau for the unchanged. Now if you try to find delta L value, so what was the delta L? Delta L was V naught into TD minus TB. This was the from equation 1. So if we substitute V naught, TD minus TB is nothing but pi V naught divided by omega beta I V1. So this is the equation for delta L. This is the distance from the bunching grid that carrier will travel from the bunching grid, and it will travel into the drift space. Okay, so now we will try to find what should be the spacing between the buncher and catcher cavity. Now we will try to find the transit time for an electron to travel a distance of delta L. So if you find this, your T value should be T2 minus T1. You can see in this figure the electron will travel into the drift space, that is this distance, this is nothing but L, that is T2 minus T1, the time taken by the carrier to travel this distance. T2 minus T1 is nothing but the distance was L and the velocity of electron was v of T1, that is a modulated velocity. Now if we substitute v of T1 into this equation, we will find the T value. So according to this, T should be L upon V naught into 1 plus beta I V1 divided by 2 V naught into sine omega T1 minus theta G by 2. The second equation I have taken. So now if you take this inverse of this and take the binomial expansion again here, this term will be negative because 1 plus x to the power minus 1. So this will be 1 minus x. And L by V naught is nothing but the T naught, which is called DC transit time. So this can be replaced as T is equal to V naught into 1 minus beta I V1 divided by 2 V naught into sine omega T1 minus theta G by 2, where this L by V naught, sorry, this is T naught. This is L by V naught is nothing but this T naught value. T naught is nothing but DC transit time. Now if we use this T in terms of that radians, so we can multiply with the omega. So in terms of radian, it will be omega T, which is equal to omega T2 minus omega T1, which is equal to, this can be written as omega into capital T naught. So that should be theta naught minus omega into beta I V naught, sorry, V1 divided by V naught into sine omega T1 minus theta G by 2. One can take T naught also, but it should be plus. If you take T naught omega T naught, it will be plus theta G by 2. Already we have seen. So this factor is called as X. This is nothing but bunching parameter of electron, and where theta naught is equal to omega L by V naught. If you substitute, so omega L by V naught means omega T naught, because L by V naught was T naught value. This is called DC transit angle. So this is all about the bunching process. You just remember this X value for solving the problems. We will get the problems based on that. So X is equal to omega beta I V1 divided by V naught. This is the bunching parameter of the klystron. Now if we move on the application part, it is used for the ultra high frequency TV transmission, and it is also used in troposphere scatter transmitter, and it is also used as satellite communication for amplification purpose, and it can also be used in the radar applications also. So all these are the applications of klystron amplifier, Now to summarize this lecture, we can go from the first slide, and we have seen the klystron can be widely used as a microwave amplifier, and it is operated on the principle of maybe velocity modulation, current modulation, and we have seen the velocity modulation, how velocity modulation takes place, what are the elements, what are the elements present in the klystron amplifier. That was the two cavity klystron, so that we had buncher cavity and catcher cavity, and the RF input which is applied from the air, and the bunching process occurs into the drift space, and this RF input was but nothing but a weak signal which is applied to here, and due to this applied RF input, maybe in the positive half cycle the electron which is coming from the cathode will be accelerated after the bunching cavity, and the electron reaching on the negative half cycle will be decelerated. And next we had seen the characteristics of two cavity klystron. In that the two cavity klystron were 40% efficient, and their average output power was 500 kilowatt for continuous wave and 30 watt for pulse power, and the power gain was maybe it may be 1 to 75 dB, but nominally we take 30 to 40 dB. And in the quantitative analysis, we have seen it is having some assumption, and this assumption says we had the uniform density throughout the cross section of the beam. And now we had the space charge effect should be negligible, as we have seen in the bunching process. This space charge will be neglected, and the magnitude of microwave signal, that is V1, should be much less than V0. And we had seen the characteristic impedance, input impedance. After that, we had seen the velocity modulation process, how velocity modulation process takes place. So initially, to have the velocity modulation, we have found out the velocity V0 for this static energy, equating the static energy and kinetic energy at equilibrium state, and then we have find out the average microwave voltage of the buncher gap. So we have solved for the velocity equation V of T1, and after that we have seen that how maximum velocity can be found out and minimum velocity can be found out, so that velocity modulation takes place here, and this modulation is nothing but the velocity will be either unchanged, or maybe it depends on the sinusoidal signal which is applied at the RF input. This sinusoidal signal were applied at the RF input. Now after that we have seen that bunching process, how bunching process takes place, and through this bunching process we have found the delta L equation. That means the electron which is leaving the bunching cavity or maybe the bunching grid, and the bunching occur at that point. So distance between these two have found out, that is delta L. So using these equations we have found the delta L value, and delta L value was nothing but this equation V0 into pi V0 divided by omega beta I V1. And after that we have seen the transit time for the carrier to travel into the drift space. This was the transit time into the drift space. So in the drift space we have T2 minus T1, because T1 was the time when the electron leaving the buncher cavity, and T2 was the time when electron reached the catcher cavity. So, and T0 we have seen L by V0. L is the distance of the drift space, and V0 is the uniform velocity of the electron. So after that we have seen the bunching parameter of klystron, how bunching parameter of klystron takes there. So this is the omega beta I V1 divided by B0. This is bunching parameter. This is very useful while solving the problem. So these are the applications for the klystron amplifier. This is how we summarize the lecture. So thank you for this listening this lecture. Thank you so much.